He says, as commander-in-chief, he would order our troops to commit war crimes and insisted they would follow his orders, even though that goes against decades of military training and the military code.
Curious criticism when you consider the source. Hillary Clinton earlier today at a campaign event in Springfield, Illinois, trying to make the case against a Trump presidency, warning those in attendance that as commander-in-chief, Donald Trump would use the military and, get this, the IRS to go after his critics and his opponents. Variations on a theme. Well, let's discuss that now, because I'm pleased to be joined here on the anchor desk by Nancy Brinker, the former United States ambassador to the Republic of Hungary, and she is host of Conversations with Nancy Brinker that you see right here on Newsmax TV. Nancy, it's great to have you here tonight on Newsmax Prime.
Great to be with you, JD, always.
Let's have a conversation with Nancy Brinker.
Okay.
And let's begin with Hillary. You know, those on the left specialize in projecting. And to have her talking about another president or her opponent using the IRS, there's a litany of things, right? The Clintons with the FBI files, now Mr. Obama and the IRS. Why on earth would she try to make that case, much less think that it would resonate?
Well, you know, JD, I'm just constantly and consistently shocked about this election and all of the things that have happened. You know, the situation that happened with Loretta Lynch, all of that, and all of the email files. Look, I think Hillary is a competent woman, but I'm not necessarily sure that this is the role. Honestly, I think there are lots of ways to serve your country. And I am kind of devastated by all of these charges that I've been hearing. None of them that, you know, don't criticize until you look within your own circle and see what's happened and what you've done in the past. It's very, very easy to do that. You better, you know, need caution to everybody who does that.
Well, again, I've seen this on the campaign trail, and I stand by JD's theory of projection. Yeah. The left does this knowing that it'll get a free pass from the dominant media culture. They can make a charge incredibly outlandish, and yet they literally own it with their actions while they were here in office. Now, Nancy, I'm going to ask you to compare and contrast, because the guy who so many people claim he just offends their sensibilities, Donald Trump, on the stump last night in Indiana, asking for unity in the aftermath of Dallas. Here's what he had to say.
For everybody here, it was tough to watch. We have to figure it out. We have to figure out what's going on. Was it training? Was it something else? It could have been something else. We have to take care of everybody, and remember that. But we have to get to the bottom of things. We have to. But we can never, ever forget the hundreds of thousands of great deals and great things that our police all over the country do.
And seeing Donald Trump there, not bombastic, a measured, thoughtful response. We so often talk about people, quote, growing in office. Right. In your opinion, has Mr. Trump grown on the campaign trail?
I think the last, even though he said some things that I wish he hadn't said and continues to at times, I am seeing an evolutionary quality, and I'm seeing him to begin to be very thoughtful about things. This was a very thoughtful speech. Sadly, my Wi-Fi was cut off at my house, but this was a very thoughtful set of comments, and I'm hopeful that, look, both parties are going to need complete unity, and our party particularly needs a lot of unity right now. And people need to come together, and he is going to be the nominee. That's just the way it is. I mean, I think all these efforts that say dump Trump and all, it's not going to happen. Therefore, we've got to figure out how in the world we can make sure that he surrounds himself with the right people, that we can visualize his presidency and go for it. And that's what we're going to have to do. We cannot detonate and destroy the Republican Party.
So what you're saying, even with the never-Trumpers, they're trying to work the Rules Committee right now in Cleveland, you're saying For the never Trumpers, it's time to stop.
Yeah, it's only going to do more damage. We really need to focus on certain things never happening again. Frankly, I have a big bias towards this, like the platform committee deciding on these LGBT issues and making big social issues the story. That shouldn't be the story. The story should be the unity of the party, that we come together, we respect each other's differences, we live in a country where we're supposed to be able to practice free speech, free religion, and live our lives in peace, as long as we share a lot of the same values, and we do. And I'm convinced that if we support our candidate, and if we support our party, good things will happen. But this is only going to tear it up, all this carrying on. We've got two candidates, and people have to make that decision.
And pretty soon, those two candidates will be joined by running mates.
Right.
If you had to pick a favorite for Mr. Trump, who would that be?
I think I would pick Mike Pence, but I would also pick Newt Gingrich as the chief of staff, because I think that Newt is a very clear thinker, has had the experience to be able to strategize. But I think we need a governor. He's been a congressman. He's from the Midwest, which I have a bias because I'm from the Midwest, as you know. And I think that this begins to build a very steady team, and I'd like to see other members named who would be part of his team.
Well, here's the challenge, and we're seeing footage of Newt, and I worked alongside Newt as a member of Republican leadership my first term in the House. Newt has an ability to take the fight to the other side. Mike is a friend of mine, and I want to be diplomatic about it, but the only way I can put it is shades of gray. He is competent, but you take a look at Indiana, he's only a couple of points ahead in his race for re-election as governor. Now, he's a good man. Yeah. Also a man, you just talked about social issues and wanting to kind of soften. He will not. He is a social conservative.
Right.
So what commends Mike Pence to the job?
Well, that he has been a governor, that he was very effective in Congress. And also, I don't like to say it because I don't like to face it either. I think a little of it's age related. I think we need to have some younger people in this presidency if this is going to happen. And I also am waiting to see which women he's going to bring in and how much other diversity he's going to have in his cabinet. I think that's going to be very important. They keep saying this is an election, and I don't want to sound like Johnny or maybe Jill one note, but I do think that women are going to help really move this election one way or another. I was thrilled to see my friend Joni Ernst as a potential candidate. I really would have loved to have seen a woman, and I think a lot of my women friends feel that way. But he didn't exactly do well with Susanna Martinez. We need to bring the powerful women in the Republican Party together.
But again, the onus is not on Mr. Trump. Governor Martinez didn't exactly behave right out of Miss Manners.
Well,
and that's the difference. Trump doesn't let that go. He talks about it. Let me talk about another former governor, someone you know very well, Jeb Bush. He decided to have a conversation with a former Bush staffer, and it appeared on MSNBC. And he's saying a ballot cast for Donald Trump is a vote for betrayal. I just want you to hear Jeb in his own words on MSNBC the other day.
The tragedy of this, though, is that there isn't going to be a wall built, and Mexico's not going to pay for it. And there's not going to be a ban on Muslims. None of that is, this is all like a alternative universe that he created. The reality is that's not going to happen. And people are going to be deeply frustrated, and the divides will grow in our country. That's the heartbreaking part of this, is I think people are going to really feel betrayed.
Your reaction to that?
I have to tell you that I happen to agree with a lot of what Jeb Bush. He's my dear friend. I love him as a person. I think his principles are amazing. And I agree with him a lot with what he says. But the fact is, we're going to have two candidates. We're going to have Hillary Clinton, and we're going to have Donald Trump. And we need to make a decision about which of those candidates will more represent our values, or at least our goals for our country, whether you like them or not. One is going to be worse for us than the other, and one's going to be better for us than the other.
There were a lot of us with George W. Bush, who was very big on open borders and comprehensive immigration reform. In 2004, Lamar Smith called us the Bloody Tongue Caucus because we had to bite our tongues in disagreement. Now the shoe's on the other foot. And why can't, and I guess the question is this, we've known these guys. They've been rough players, sharp elbows, but classy in the end. Why can't they follow your advice?
You know, JD, I wish I could tell you why. I keep hoping that as Mr. Trump takes his campaign forward and people can visualize, again, visualization is very, very important. People can visualize and see the actions of the people, things will change. And as we get closer to the election, you know, we're still a good ways away from an election. You know that, I mean, you know that better than anyone. But I do believe that we need to have an environment where people can see and feel what this presidency will look like, but more importantly, what our party's going to look like. And you know, as long as you have people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you know, I always was a huge fan of hers, a woman Supreme Court justice, but to get out there and speak and say, is this what we want for our country? Or do we want our politicians who are running these campaigns to be able to speak civilly to each other, maybe not so civilly, but over issues? This isn't the place of a Supreme Court justice at all.
And your comments on Ruth Bader Ginsburg altogether appropriate, because another example of the left making a violation.
Right.
She violated the judicial canon, an associate member of the Supreme
and that's
Court.
somehow okay.
Nancy Brinker, thanks for your time. There's more straight ahead on Newsmax Prime.